Now then, for a fascinating story normally reserved for things like Hollywood films, the Pentagon has declassified 3 videos. Let's have a look at them, which appear to show, as you can see for yourself, unidentified objects flying through the sky, in many cases identified by US Air Force pilots. The black and white videos were recorded by those pilots, one in November 2004, 2 back in January 2015, so not too long ago. The footage had been shared online unofficially. It had been leaked and has been well known to UFO enthusiasts, but the Pentagon said it had chosen to release the videos officially now. Well, let's talk more about that and other conspiracy theories with Cass Sunstein, a professor at Harvard, who was the administrator of the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs under the Obama administration and has written a book called Conspiracy Theories and Other Dangerous Ideas. Professor Sunstein, good to talk to you. Well, let's talk first of all about, we've all seen them now. I know they've been around for a bit because they leaked. So what do you make of those videos?
Well, society and life is full of randomness and things that are hard to explain. And the chance that it's space aliens or Martians or creatures from Venus who just happen to be arriving at a time when there's a pandemic, I think I'd take my chances on. It's something that has a worldly explanation.
Well, maybe they've come to save us. But the fact is that the fact that they leaked and hadn't been released, now that has already led to many, many conspiracy theories, of course, about a cover-up.
Yes, and isn't it amazing that during a pandemic, a lot of sporting events have been canceled at just the time when the nations who have been canceling the events had teams that were likely to lose? Doesn't that make you suspicious? Similarly, I think the fact that it's being released now probably attests to nothing, and if it attests to something, it's probably reasonably benign or much smaller than the more exciting theories suggest.
But I was thinking the fact that they hadn't been released before, yet those that like to believe in UFOs and aliens and all kinds of things believe that the authorities knew something and weren't letting the public know about it.
Well, here's what's, I think, interesting about that way of thinking, which we all are prone to, is that any time that there's a release of something that, seems like a puzzle, maybe a UFO-related puzzle, anytime that happens will be a time when it's fair to say, why now? It might be a time when things are fairly quiet, so why now? It might be time when people are focused on climate change, so why now? It might be at the time of Brexit. It might be after Brexit has receded. So the why now question always can be asked in a way that has a tone of voice that suggests very suspicious.
Yeah, but when it comes to UFOs, they date back certainly into the 20th century, into the middle of the 20th century. I'm thinking, of course, about the Roswell incident, and that still persists. They're long-lasting.
Yes, and the Roswell television show, which is serendipitously available at a time of lockdown, is actually fun, really fun. But the likelihood is, and I am embarrassed to say I've actually investigated the Roswell incident, the likelihood, and I'm phrasing this very gently, is that it didn't involve anyone, and I use the word anyone to include space aliens as well as people. The likelihood that it involved anyone from outer space is vanishingly low. And
also then, of course, we've got Apollo 11 itself never went there at all. It was all shot in the desert somewhere, and the lights all wrong and the flags in the wrong place, etc., etc.
Yes, and what's interesting about the spread of conspiracy theories, I think, is that there's a combination of some individuals are predisposed to believe them, so much so that they are likely to believe mutually contradictory conspiracy theories, such as Elvis Presley was killed, maybe by the Central Intelligence Agency, and also Elvis Presley is still alive and actually singing quietly in some remote area. People are likely to believe both of those. So there's a predisposition on the part of some. And also, if something is hitting someone's individual life or their community or the planet or their country, then there's a search for an explanation that can give order to what would otherwise be a kind of disorderly fear or anger. And that's, I think, one reason why we're seeing so many conspiracy theories these days, including the ones involving UFOs.
Yeah, and including the ones involving coronavirus. They're just multiplying.
Yes, and these are really understandable, because the idea that something like this would happen so suddenly and have such a massive effect, that really is in the nature of science fiction or surreal. And the human mind is drawn to a pattern or an explanation.
Okay.
And if you have an explanation that's also a pattern, then there's a kind of calming that happens in our...
Sorry to cut you off. Must end it there. Professor Sunstein, thank you very much indeed.